Awesome. Are we live?
I believe we are.
Fantastic. Hey, everybody. This is Sorsha Runarius, and with me today, I have S. Ben Qayin.
Hello. Good to be here. Thank you for doing me the honor.
This is Sorsha Runarius, and with me today, I have S. Ben Qayin. Thank you so much. Man.
Thank you for
definitely an honor to be able to interview you, to be able to spend time chatting a little bit.
Sure, it's always a pleasure to come on and share whatever information I can.
Well, judging from the response that I've seen this week, people have definitely been looking forward to it. So I'm happy to be here with you today. Most people that follow your work, they definitely have either read your books, they've seen you out here for a while because you've obviously been doing this, but I think a lot of people, I know that you've given other interviews before, and you have, talked a bit about, your rituals and your work, but I guess what first inspired you to study magic early on, and at what age did you know that this was the path for you?
It's kind of a long question. It goes back really to my adolescent years. I had a really powerful and personal experience happen to me that proved to me from a young age that there was something else to this reality, something else going on, something behind the scenes that we were unaware of, or we don't see, something unseen. I'll try to go through it rather quickly if I can and kind of summarize it or sum it up. But I was 9 years old. We were not rich. My mother, we were in an apartment, and she had a double ear infection. We didn't have the phone at the time. My brother had lived a few blocks away. This was in LA, actually. And so I had stayed home from school that day, and we're to take care of her. And I was supposed to bring a note over to my brother's house with a grocery list. And so I brought it over to his house, got there fine. On the way back, I had to pass by a small park that was no bigger or longer than 50 yards, just a couple of picnic tables and some grass, really. But a car had pulled up along the side there on the street next to it, and I had to go by that. And I was thinking that was weird. It was okay, it's kind of strange, but I kept walking, and then I had this huge, it's like if somebody were to run by you invisible and just deck you as hard as they could as they were running by. I had just this huge blow of a voice that came within my mind. It came at me and struck me. And it just said, no, do not go any farther. Scared the shit out of me. And I thought, well, okay, all right. But I, knowing me, I said, okay, well, I'll start to go across the street, and then I'll cut back over. And in the middle of my train of thought, the voice hit me again. And it's just that, just that as resounding, no, do not go any farther. And I was just terrified. Obviously, I did not go any farther. I turned around. I started just banging on doors, on any door I found, just terrified. And finally somebody opened up, and they had called the police, and they came, of course, and the guy was wanted for 8 counts of child molestation. I was to be his next victim. And so wow. It's crazy to have something like that actually verified. So many people have, experiences like this, and there's nothing they could really back it up with factually. I'm fortunate to be in a position where that is an actual documented case of this occurring. So kind of a long story short there, what got me into this, what brought me to a magical side of things? Well, it's been implanted within me since a young age that there's something else going on. And I don't think it was my grandma, that was coming through trying to help me. I don't think it was a guardian angel. In my personal belief, it's those from the outside, and if I guess, looking at things, I believe in a holographic universe kind of theory about things. So that's a rather in-depth situation or conversation to go into. But It was interesting. It showed me that there's more to this reality than what is on the surface, than what we're shown and what we're seeing, what we see. And I've always, from that point on, have been searching essentially. Of course, I was raised a Catholic and a Christian from a young age, and it was only in my teenage years that I actually broke away from that and started practicing magic on my own. And then, of course, I got away from it for a little bit when I was in my 20s, and then really delved into it really hardcore and made it my career. So I'm about 25. So
That's
definitely been at it for a long time, but some really powerful experiences along the way that have shown me that there's a lot to this reality that is not seen.
Well, it's good that you listen to that, the forces that you were tuned into, as well as your own intuition. I'm sure it's probably, guided you and kept you out of some pretty crazy situations, or guided you towards, situations that were, supposed to be in line with your path. When it comes to your own path, what was the first, I guess, thing that you studied, magically? Like, was there a particular current or style that intrigued you once you started researching from a young age and then kind of getting it more into it?
When I first started, and this kind of goes back to where I was at the teenage years. I first started, I was like any other person, I think any other kid, grasping at straws, trying to figure, things out for themselves. I didn't really have any kind of mentor or guide. So, I hit the bookstore like anybody else and picked up a lot of Wiccan books, a lot of Celtic magic, a lot of Egyptian magic books, things like that. Pretty much anything I could get my hands on to really show me what was going on or show me these different systems. The thing about it is that they didn't really click with me. Egyptian magic did to some degree, more so than anything else. And so I incorporated a lot of that within my own work. But it was kind of interesting because what I did is I ended up building my own altar and then painting signs and symbols from a lot of different traditions. And I didn't realize at the time that I was actually doing chaos magic. By combining these different systems into my own system that was built for me personally, which is now what I practice or what I preach to everybody else, is to make magic their own. So that's something that I really got into. I used to kind of give offerings to the crescent moon. I was really into moon worship at the time as well. That was kind of what I was focusing around, and that was really powerful. It changed a lot of things in my life during that time. So that kind of led way to a lot of different things. Started working with more spirits, looking at that aspect of it, ceremonial, looking at the goetic work, looking at even Simon Necronomicon, this kind of stuff, getting into that, and started working with actual spirits and evocation, and then evolving from that, of course.
Okay. Well, along those lines, then, what kind is your favorite type of ritual to do? I mean, you're so very well versed. I mean, studied so many different things, and you've incorporated it into your own practice. But do you have like a favorite type of magic that you enjoy, or a favorite type of ritual that you enjoy doing for yourself or for clients?
I think that the best ritual that I do for people or for clients, I really enjoy doing the unlocking all locked doors ritual, or the also called the unblocking blocked paths ritual, and that's awesome. A lot of people have a lot of blockages in their life, and they're trying to do stuff. Every avenue it seems they go down, there's something that's keeping them from their goal. The idea of the ritual is to actually unblock all of these blockages and have this energy flow through. And I've had opportunity flow through is the real meaning behind it all, is really just unlocking all these different avenues of opportunity and energy to flow into their lives, whereas before it's been stagnant and blocked. And I've seen that really help a lot of people just kind of catapult over any kind of obstacles they've had. And I like watching that. The idea of doing ritual for hire or working with people is to help them reach their goals and ascend essentially on their own personal paths. So when you can do that and help people out and get them over their struggles, it's an awesome thing. So I actually
Awesome.
enjoy that.
That's really awesome. And I've had the chance to, in the course of getting to know you the last couple of years, I mean, I've seen what you can do with the opening, like the road openings and clearing these obstacles. I mean, we've had a chance to do ritual together and, with our group, with other people. And I've seen the results. I've seen, situations that were just there, and then you do ritual and then just things open up. So I've experienced this for myself firsthand. And, it's interesting, being able to just, talk with other people in the communities, and, people pay attention. People look at what we're doing, what you're doing, because you put yourself out here, and, you offer several really amazing rights with From the Ashes Publishing. And one in particular, you're right, The Dying of the Light. I think a lot of people are curious, like, how was it born and how has it affected you? You seem to immerse yourself into whatever you're doing, whether it's a current or an entity. And that's got to affect you. And so, I'd be really curious if you could explain kind of, I guess, what that's like. I know there's a lot of questions kind of wrapped up into one here, but
Yeah.
we can unwrap it.
No, that's fine. The Thumiel, the Dark Divided Ones, that's a really intense book or system. But the thing is, I could say that with this Book of Smokeless Fire or the Black Book. It's when I when I look back, I'm like, yeah, all of them are actually pretty intense. I didn't intend to be that way, but it seems that that's how my writing style is. I like to really get to the heart of things, but that particular ritual, it really goes into Kabbalistic roots. When you're looking at the Tree of Life, Tree of Death, you're looking at separation, the fall of man, the fall of Satan, of the angels. All of these things are combined and wrapped up into one. When I was doing and writing the book, I really wanted to get down to what the root of evil was, or what evil was considered. And you really look at Satan and his role, and it's changed so much over the generations, that I really wanted to get back to that core essence and really find, all right, what was considered evil? What is the root of all evil? And it really comes down to separation. It comes down to separation from their idea of God. And so anything outside of God, anything wanting to separate from God, was dubbed as being evil. And, I go into depth in the book about that and that concept, which is really interesting. It's you really get into the psychology of God, which gets quite heavy, actually, obviously. But I enjoyed writing that chapter. Really heavy work. The idea of the rite is to extinguish the holy spark that each one of us have or had, depending on if one has done this right. Within all of us, there is something that's still connected to this God, the Judeo-Christian God, and so the idea was to extinguish this spark, and then once this spark was gone, extinguished, to replace it with the light of the black sun. And so it's a really big separation from one side to the other. It's a complete dedication into the Sitra Ara, into the left-hand path. A lot of people have really wanted to do this right to get over a lot of dogma that they have from their Christian or Catholic upbringing, because this is geared towards that kind of system, that kind of religious system. And that's one of the reasons why it's so powerful to me, is because that was where I came from. And so by doing this, it's like an unholy baptism into the left-hand path, and into the Sitra Ara and the clip-off especially. It is, other people, when they write about the clip-off, they start from the other way around, from the bottom up. And with this, I'm starting from the top down, and there's a reason for that I explain in the book. And one of them is really to get this separation and this rite out of the way, to go through it, and then you're able to really immerse yourself within the rest of the current of the clip-off and the left-hand path, without any kind of restriction. So it's very liberating. It's separation completely from this force that we consider evil from the left-hand path, and it really allows one to not only separate but become king of their own reality and of their own path. And so again, it's just something that it's not for everybody. It's very intense, so one definitely has to be ready for this to go through with it.
No, definitely. It sounds like, I mean, it's like the point of no return. I mean, once you do it, it's like a bell that cannot be unrung.
No, it's definitely something that one must be sure of and have thought about for some time, not something to be quickly decided upon.
Definitely. Wow. I definitely think that would be, good for a lot of people, because it seems like there's a lot of dogma even within, magical circles. I mean, there's always, something just kind of, I mean, it's hard to undo all that conditioning. So this is like
it really is. It was really difficult for me. Like I said, I remember being baptized. I was 3 years old in LA again. But it's something that's just pounded into you. It's a way of life. Your parents believe in this particular path, your grandparents, and so forth and so on. And it's just handed down. And it's just something you grow up with, like, the sky is blue, and it's really difficult to have something so ingrained within you removed. And oftentimes we can't necessarily get over that by ourselves. And there are rites that help us get over these blockages, get over these roadblocks, so that we're able to ascend. Because even people that are really wanting to leave it behind have a very difficult time letting go of that. Am I a bad person, or I'm going to go to hell? Is even they've studied for years and still they have this baggage with them. So the rite is designed not only for people trying to get rid of that kind of dogma, but also for magicians who really want to fully immerse themselves within the left-hand path without any kind of reservation, essentially.
That's good. I mean, that just something would be perfect. Do like the clearing the obstacles and then doing this. I mean, it seems like your work really works well together. So these different rights. I mean, being able to address it from different ways. Clearing it out, and then removing these last tendrils of connection to the system. And a lot of people, just in visiting and chatting with people in different circles and in different forums and different social media that we do out here, it seems like the common thing that I hear people asking is, what can each person do to create change? I mean, on whatever path they're on, from whatever background they come from. I mean, it seems like people do magic because they want to create change, in their life, in the world around them. But like, what would you say is like the, either the most important quality or the most important thing that a magician can do to create change?
You pretty much hit it on the nail on the head when you said that's what people are after. People are looking for change. That's the core of magic, essentially. They're looking to enhance their lives. They're looking to change things or manipulate things in a way that makes their lives better. Usually manipulation is seen with a negative kind of connotation, and it's really not. I mean, we all manipulate our lives so that we're in a position that that is doing well, or that we're doing well. And so it's not a bad thing. I think that getting into all this is pretty heavy. Can you repeat your question again?
Yeah, definitely. So for people who want to create change, what would be the single most important quality or the most important action that a person could do to create change for themselves?
I run and run and run with my thoughts, and so it's hard for me to get back to the original question sometimes.
No worries.
So the biggest thing that people could do, I think personally, in my opinion, is to change themselves. To create change outside, you must create change inside first. And so it's really looking at yourself, being true to yourself, being honest with yourself about who you are, being honest with yourself about where your limitations are, what keeps you back from certain things, and focusing and looking at those things and really finding a way to get over them so that you can ascend. If people want to create change as a group, they must first create change within themselves individually. And a lot of people aren't doing that. And so groups aren't doing that. And it's reflected in that situation. So the biggest, change within, all the things that come from within us are externalized, externally in this reality. So if you want to see change, if you want to increase, prosperity in your life, if you want to create an environment for yourself that's positive, then you have to really look within yourself and look at your weaknesses and see what needs to be done to overcome them, so that you can create an environment for themselves, for yourself that you're trying to do. And that's the goal of all magical practice.
That's absolutely right. I mean, being able to, to just know that and make changes. I mean, it's the first step, I guess, to, to anything else, but that desire to want to change, and then the willingness to take that step.
Know thyself.
Know thyself. Yeah. Well, and, if you look at, like, your own history, your personal history with magic, you have done a lot. You've written about so many different things. I love your books. I have several. I've enjoyed reading them and getting to know you, through your work. But I would say, like, considering, like, where you're at now to where you were, like 20 years ago, if you could sit across from yourself, as a 20-something-year-old, as a teenager, what words of wisdom, what type of advice would you give yourself, knowing what you know now?
It's hard, because 20 years ago, it would say, study harder, look at, these systems more, or, anything, but this is knowledge that I'm passing from, obviously from a future self. But, at the same time, I was rather wild, in 20 years ago. And because of it, I actually experienced a lot of things that I would not have normally experienced, which I don't regret at all. My life has been very interesting. I've experienced a lot of different things. I've had a lot of amazing opportunities that a lot of people don't normally get. So I don't take back any of it. I think that the path that I am on is the path that I'm supposed to be on, and there's things have culminated as they're meant to. So I don't know. I don't know how much information I would give my previous self, because I kind of like where I'm at right now. I think that things are going really well. I would say 20 years ago, all right, start looking into, more social media, I guess, because that's where everything's at now, and having more of an earlier jump on it. But other than that, I think the magical progression of everything has naturally occurred at a good rate. And I'm pretty happy with where things are right now.
That's authentic, man. It's right on. I think a lot of people are curious about, your habits, just, they want to know you. They want to know, like, what makes you tick, specifically, creatively, with your magical process, like when you, get an idea, like what inspires you to the point that, like, I guess if you could walk us through your creative process, like from getting an inspiration to then it becomes an awesome book.
I write for myself. Essentially, if a book doesn't exist, and that's the problem. I go looking for the book and it doesn't exist, so I end up having to create the book. I found that with the Black Book. I have found that with the Book of Smokeless Fire. These books, they don't exist, and I want to pick up the book that has the definitive information on the subject. I want it within my hands. I want to be able to look through it. I want to be able to perform the magic. I want to be able to have it within my hands. And a lot of the times that information is scattered everywhere. So to take all that information, to make all the connections, and to actually solidify it into a tome is pretty much what I'm doing. What subjects, why do I pick the subjects I do? They pick me. It really comes down to something that, like with Smokeless Fire, that was really intense. That came to me. I had written Volabilos Ex Chaosium, And I was actually had started another book. I was in the middle, a good third of the way through, and I came across the information about the jinn. And I found this old manuscript. I found the English translation, and I realized that there was just nothing about this that could be accessed by left-hand path magicians. And it was just a huge undertaking. But this information came to me when I was in a really angry, vengeful, betrayed state. And so that anger, that betrayal, that force flowed through me. And I believe that the spirits definitely were around me and influencing me and guiding my hand when I wrote this book. And so it was, again, from a very angry place. Like bands, like let's say The Cure. They have, every release is so vastly different from the last. Each reflecting some kind of emotion or some kind of chapter or something that the band has gone through, or Robert Smith, or individually gone through. This reflects their emotion, and just like that, just like a musician or a band, authors do the same thing. We release different tones according to what we're going through emotionally at that time, and that was just a reflection of that at that point. I sit, when I wrote that book, I sat in the middle of a magic circle in the middle of my temple, and there were just sigils and everything just scattered all over around the circle, just information, and just, it was crazy. And it stayed like that for months as I wrote and put this information down and translated this information, and had it flow through me. These sigils, these things started to appear to me. I started getting images. They're not complete. I just see flashes of images, different triangles, different circles. And they don't come to me fully until I actually sit there and start to draw out what has come to me. And it happens over several days. I don't just sit down with the first flash. It's something that starts to reoccur. And then I have to at that point start to draw it out. And when I draw it out, then more of the pieces of the puzzle get put. I start to see more, and it becomes what it does. And these are all this, came through me at this point. So this is the process with every book. It's something that comes to me. It almost attacks me. It almost is a possession of sorts. Once I start getting into the current of writing this particular book or system of magic, I fully immerse myself into that. And so I don't think that there's any other way to do it. If you're really in touch with this current, if you're really in touch with these entities, I don't see that there's any other possible way to do it. You'd have to fully immerse yourself within these systems, work with these spirits, have them flow through you, write down this information, write down the images, and write down the information that comes through. I don't think that a lot of people are doing that anymore. There's a lot of information out there that just doesn't seem from the heart or authentic. And I really think that people really need to really touch and get into these currents to have this information flow through them more. So yeah, to kind of answer your question in an elaborate way. There you go.
Well, people look at you, they see what you have done, and it's amazing. The way that you write, it resonates with so many people. You have this poetic heart, but a warrior spirit as well. You have this quality of writing and being that I think just really resonates with people. And your work appeals a lot. I look at, just from following you for as long as I have, people that have, maybe known you longer or followed your work, from the very beginning when you hit the scene. Being able to kind of just see where it's evolved, where it's gone. And then, now here you are, you have your own publishing house, From the Ashes Publishing. That's a pretty amazing undertaking. So, what inspired you the most, I guess, to open your own house? That is ambitious, but you're not somebody that would ever there's nothing about you that is like half measures. You were either all or nothing in your work. And from what I've seen, it's, yeah.
If I do something, I like to definitely do it. That's for sure. From the Ashes Publishing is really special. It's something that I've wanted to actually do for years. It's an ideal that I've had I've been with a lot of great publishing houses in the past. It's nothing against them at all. It's really just about being my individual person again, like, and, this comes back to Thumiel. This comes back to writing Thumiel. And this, like I was just saying, the books often reflect what one's going through. Thumiel was about separation. Thumiel was about understanding that separation, becoming okay with it, growing into it, and then becoming king or master of your own domain or reality. This transformation occurred while I was writing this book, and I separated from my previous publisher and opened up my own publishing house and went my own way. And it's growth. This is what I've wanted to do for a long time, and this is what the Left-Hand Path is about. This is what its core central value is freedom. And so I wanted to be able to create my own ideal, create my own place out there. I wanted to be able, which was the idea of bringing the most authentic, real magicians together, really bringing out good, powerful, and positive content about this field and about what this is all about, and delivering it in a way that was, like you say, poetic and yet strong. And that's the idea. The idea of the publishing house is it's built on strength, integrity, honor, and truth. Really, again, getting the real information out there about magic and having people be able to access that, and utilize it to help them with their own personal paths. And so it's really been a revolution for me to do this, and it's gone great. I've had great positive results from it. As you know, you're part of the house yourself. So it's been really powerful and positive, and a lot of tremendous support from everybody out there has really made the difference, as if the house was going to make it or not, and it definitely is going to make it. So I thank all those who support the house.
Yeah, it's been, the response has been, amazing. It's very, the house has been very well received in the community. I feel like people, have just been coming out of the woodwork left and right, approaching us either, individually, collectively, wanting to just, be a part of something, that's completely different than anything else out there. There are a lot of, awesome publishing houses. There's a lot of, great groups out there that, that offer a lot to the community, that have basically, transformed things, that have basically, they have offered a lot. But being able to just, like you said, have something different. It's so raw. It's so authentic. It's just, a more positive focus, I think. You kind of just, I think, there's a lot of illusion on the Left-Hand Path that, you have to be, a certain way in order to be seen a certain way, or in order to practice a certain type of magic. But I mean, you can have room for, for mercy and severity. You can have room to be,
Absolutely.
There's a time to be an asshole, and then there's a time to be a little bit more compassionate. I mean, you don't have to just live up to the standard of it has to be, dark and broody all the time. I mean, we are humans with a wide range of emotion, with a wide, variety of things.
When people ask me what is the Left-Hand Path about, my answer is, personally, it's about love and freedom. And that's it. And freedom and love and learning as much as you can. That's it right there. Other religions, other systems, they keep one from ascending because they do not allow for this. You have to abide by certain rules. You can't advance in certain ways. And with this, it's open. It's about being free. It's about embracing life without restraint or dogma holding us back. It's not a negative thing, and we don't have to live in dark, evil caves. And I'm not as, I'm a very serious person, but I also have a pretty good sense of humor, I believe. I don't believe that, as it's said by Don Juan, a true sorcerer doesn't take himself too seriously, and there's a lot to be said with that.
Yeah.
Keep it real, essentially.
I mean, that's one thing that I've gotten to know about you. Just in our interactions and talking. I mean, you are one of the most real, authentic people that I've ever met, and you tell it like it is. You will definitely like call people out on bullshit if it needs to be called out on. You will hold people accountable, but you also do it in a very like classy, diplomatic way. It's like you can be stern when you need to be stern, but you're also, a brother. You're also very respectful. And I think that is one thing that just sets you apart from so many. Just the way that you conduct yourselves with people, the way that you are so open. I mean, you're approachable. That's the thing is, I mean, you are accessible, you're approachable. If somebody, sends you a message, if they approach you in respect, I know you get bombarded with, I'm sure tons of messages, being a public figure in the magical community. But I mean, you respond to people, you talk to people, you chat with them. And then you have, these services for hire that you also offer. But it's nice that people can just, send you a note and sometimes just, maybe ask a brief question and, you might be able to get back to them. And,
Sure.
You make yourself available. That's one of the big differences that I've noticed.
Yeah, I try. I do the best I can. And there's times when people write to me, and it may take me a couple of days to get back to them. But I do definitely try to make the effort to do that. The thing is about being here is we're all here. We're all together. We're all on this path called life. Like I said, you can be an asshole or you can be, a nice person. Everybody can be an asshole. Kids can be assholes. Like it's not hard. What's hard is to be a genuine good person. Is to actually care. Is to actually have compassion. Is to actually try to be understanding to people. That takes effort from people generally. That's really what one should aspire to do, in my opinion. Is so much of people, being just cruel or mean or cold. I think that is one of the things that really deters people from advancing in their paths. And I'm just a person. I put my pants on like anybody else. I get up, I have breakfast. It's we're all here on this path. I don't believe in masters. To be a master is something one must be a master of all things. I've never met anybody like that. As I believe everything's connected. What I do believe is some people, have had more advantage or more time or more understanding, and they're farther down the path than other people are. It's good for those people to be able to call back to those other people and warn them of pitfalls or of things to be careful about, or give them advice about things. But we're all traveling on this together, and we could be cruel to each other, or we could be kind to each other. And of course, there's limits to each of these things, depending on individuals you're dealing with at times.
Definitely.
But generally, that's the way to ascent, in my belief, is to work together and to try to help each other out, not cut each other down. We're I look at the magical community right now, and so much right now is tied up in social media. It's all about being the most outlandish, or being the most shocking, or being the most, something. Drama filled or whatever the fuck is going on. And it takes so much away from what magic is. It's gotten so far removed from the original subject that I think that's the major downfall in the magical community right now, is so much drama and so much, shallowness, and not really dealing with any of the real core concepts, not really looking at ascent. So, it's a good thing because, we're able to share ideas. We're able to share, concepts and send pictures and be able to communicate like we're doing now, which is amazing. But on the other hand, or the other side of things, there's an impersonality to it. And it's like, there's a lot of times where it's really easy to be so cold and cruel to other people, because, there's no accountability. You're not gonna be able to see them or interact with them. You can block them with the, blink of an eye. And so it's really changed things. And I think that even though it's brought us together in a lot of ways, it's really torn us apart. And again, I think, you asked what people could do to create change. And my answer was create change within yourself. So it's really taking yourself into accountability of how you're going to react with people, and keeping, magic and understanding the core concepts of that, in a sacred place, and understand that's the real goal and meaning behind all of it. So there's a lot of different things there that I've talked about in one, but
well, it's inspiring. I mean, it's I think, I mean, I know that for me personally, you've inspired me a great deal, and have mentored me, been a dear friend and mentor and peer within the house, and I know that that is also true for a lot of people. I know people, they look at the house, they look at you, they see you doing things that maybe they would, that they respect, or that they would love to be able to do for themselves. And a lot of people, have been inspired to, offer their own services for hire, whether publicly or whether more privately, different levels. It's different for each person. But I guess since you are, this public figure, this mentor, what advice would you give people? Like, for people that are trying to carve a name for themselves professionally, what would be, some advice that you would give to them?
I mean, I was kind of just touching on that a little bit, excuse me. I really think that people, again, they think to create a name for themselves, they have to be extravagant. They have to, do something shocking or have huge drama. And that's not what it's about. Again, that's really taking away from what it's all about. With anything, if you have to have material, you have to really keep it down to developing your own concepts, keeping it to the material, don't go crazy on social media and causing lots of drama and all this. It's not the way to get noticed, as far as I'm concerned. Really, it comes down to your content and what you're trying to do. At the end of the day, that's what matters. If someone can access your book on their shelf at the end of the day and go through it and get the information out of it, that's what's important. Write a strong book. Have your philosophies and ideas be very clear, and stand behind them, and really present them, and not drama. So instead of presenting drama, present your content, and make it strong, and push it as hard as you can. You can be noticed through your magical content, not through your drama, essentially.
So show them what you're about instead of talking about what you're about, and
Exactly.
yeah, do it in a way that is not full of scandal and drama and craziness, because that doesn't really serve anybody.
Anybody can do that, but who can really sit down and write a book that is comprehensive and full of really true content that's going to really help people with their magical techniques, or help them evolve spiritually. That's where it's at. Really putting this information down to help people evolve. That will create its own buzz on its own, because it's good, because it's true. That's how I write. You had said, I write my books so strong or whatever. It's really about just writing truth. And that is truth to me. I think that's why, excuse me, it comes across so strong, is I am writing my own truths. It is truths from my reality, of course, and it may not, be everybody's reality, but I try to write the truths that I've found through magical interactions with beings or with systems, and really get that out there. So it really comes down to that, is really writing true, good, genuine content, having strong philosophies, and really just pushing that, and not so much the bells and whistles and drama that everybody is looking at. In the end, it really does hurt you. It's not necessarily a good thing. So I would say put out good content and stay away from the drama.
That is good advice. That's solid advice. I know that it's, it's helped me on my own path, but I think that, there's a lot of people that just don't know where to start. They just, they have a lot of ideas, they have a lot of inspiration, they have so much passion for, for what they do, but they just don't necessarily know where to go with it. So
Right.
being able to just kind of keep some things, keep these things in mind, and then, as they go forward on whatever current or path, I think that'll serve them really well.
That's the thing. You don't need to have all the bells and whistles with everything coming out of the gate. Like I said, if your content is strong, then it'll stand for itself and speak for itself. It'll do, it'll get noticed for what it is. And you don't need all the other, I don't know what word I'm looking for really, but all the other charade, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I look at, and this kind of wraps up. I know that you had, mentioned kind of trends and things that you have seen in magical communities and whatnot. But when it comes to, the left-hand path and magic and where we're at, as a whole, if that could be quantified as a whole.
Right.
Where do you see like the evolution of magic going? Do you see it getting closer, like in relation to science? Like, either do you see more crossover than there has been before with some of these current understandings and subtle sciences, or I guess what is the direction that you see magic?
It's interesting. It's like I see us evolving and devolving at the same time, which is weird. I see as a socially devolving. I see things like we just talked about, things being torn apart. Information is great to be shared and whatnot, but a lot of socially, again, like we just discussed, there's a lot of negativity to it. Now, scientifically, it's one of the most important, interesting, amazing times that we live in right now, because my belief is that magic is I've said this a million times, magic is a really stupid word. I don't like the word magic. It's it's really vague, and it alludes to I don't know how it happened. It's magic. I do not agree with this kind of understanding or logic. It does not work with me. I have to know the mechanics behind how something works. Something doesn't just happen.
Exactly.
So, looking at that, I believe magic is a science that is not yet completely understood. This is a quote, pretty much understood scientifically, and that's very true. We're starting to get there at this point now. Looking at all magic gets down to the quantum mechanics of things. I had to know where we lived, the rules of where we are to understand magic, and I found it within the quantum field. And so I see us progressing. That's a very good thing and a very bad thing. And I've said this before as well, is that, if magic is actually shown to be a true force, that our intent changes reality that can be measured by others, that can be seen as a weapon. We might very well face the witch trials again. In Saudi Arabia, there are actual witch hunting police departments or branches of the police department that do look for people practicing magic, and they kill them. If magic were to be proven as a scientific fact, and I were to be caught doing a baneful magic right towards another person, that very well could be seen as an act of violence or an act to do harm. We're not at that point yet, but that's something that it's a double-edged sword. Here we've been pushing the validity of magic for so long through our works, but we might be, slitting our own throats at the same time. My books may be outlawed here, in the next few years. You don't know, and it's something that a lot of people haven't considered. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. I think that under the right conditions, it takes magic from the word magic and the dark ages, and it brings it into a science and a technology that we can now access, and a reality that we can now access. It's taking these old beliefs and taking them into a new era. Because to me, this is magic. This is science. This is something that is a technology to our reality. It's not something that revolves necessarily just around fires and words that don't, rhyme but don't mean anything, or there's a lot more to this. There is a science to this, and we're starting to now finally understand that. But again, that could be our own end. So we'll see how that plays out.
Agreed.
You don't see me around, in the next few years, and I'm probably in my hidden underground bunker. So.
I'll be in the next bunker over. We'll be bunker neighbors.
Yeah. The whole underground left-hand path community, no one will know about us.
Yeah, gosh, there's so much. There's so many layers. There's so many things. But I see this as and I see, from the Ashes Publishing as being, on the front line of, magical revolution, being able to, work with who we work with. We work with each other, work with, taking all of this experience, all of, we each have something unique, that we bring to the table. I look at, the things that you have done, and, people people, look at, what less, because a lot of people come and go, but you have stood the test of time. You have been there when other groups and people have crumbled, and here you are, rocking it, killing it, doing what you do, man. And I see this as like your legacy. So like, what kind of legacy are you going to leave? I mean, this is revolution, this is legacy, and here you are, right in the middle of it, front and center. And this is your legacy. Like, I mean,
that's kind of what, I guess, like I said before, what the house was built on, of integrity, of honor, of truth, of really having these kinds of moral value, if you will, which is ironic. Most people would think that, you wouldn't have a moral value in the left-hand path, which is, of course, completely wrong. But it's about having this strong integrity, having these ideas or ideals of love, of truth, of putting out real content for people to actually take and use to ascend in their own lives, to freedom. That's the idea, the legacy of freedom, the legacy of fighting against whatever odds are out there that's tried to repress this from whatever angle, and having it be a beacon of freedom, essentially, which encompasses love, which encompasses integrity, which encompasses honor. It is, that's what I would like to have stand, if I don't eat jellyfish and become immortal.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's definitely it's gonna, I feel, honored to be able to be here, watching it, partaking it, and, being involved as much as I can. It's exciting. It's an exciting time, I think, to be doing what we do, and just, seeing these things, seeing change, and knowing that you're part of the change. And I think that's what it's about. And that's what the people want to do, is, create change. And, I wanted to, take a minute to thank everybody who is watching today, who's tuning in, who might tune in later. I mean, thank you guys so much for all of your support. For being what you are, doing what you do. And thank you guys, for supporting the house. And we could probably leave some links in the comments, after the live stream. But, be sure to check out www.fromtheashespublishing.com. Check out the house, sign up for the free newsletter. Also check out www.sbenkane.com. That is his other website. He has a number of products available there as well. But yeah, check out his websites, check out goods and services, his books. But thank you guys so much for your support. And S. Kane, thank you so much for getting on here today and being willing to let me pick your brain a little bit. And
it's been an honor. I'm sure we'll do it again. It's true, I'm not a lover of the camera myself, but I will jump on here and there. So hopefully you guys will see me a little bit more. I do plan on doing some podcasts and some talks about some stuff. So I will be out there. So stay tuned.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it. Okay.
Indeed.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much.
Talk with you soon.
Take care.
Bye.